I stood backstage, the murmur of the audience a dull roar beyond the curtain. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat urging me to flee. My script trembled in my sweaty hands, the words blurring into an indecipherable mess. It was a school play, a seemingly insignificant event, yet here I was, crippled by a wave of overwhelming anxiety. This wasn't an unfamiliar sensation, in fact, it had become an unwelcome companion, rearing its head at the most inopportune moments. A presentation at work, a social gathering, even the thought of making a phone call could trigger this cascade of physical and emotional distress. For years I wrestled with these feelings, ashamed of my inability to control them. I told myself to snap out of it, to be strong, but the more I resisted, the stronger the anxiety seemed to grow. I felt like a captive in my own mind, unable to break free from the relentless grip of fear. It took time, patience, and a shift in perspective to understand that anxiety wasn't the enemy I had perceived it to be. It was a messenger, albeit a somewhat clumsy one, trying to alert me to something amiss within me. Initially, anxiety felt like being caught in a relentless whirlpool. Each anxious thought was like a current, pulling me further down into a vortex of fear and doubt. The faster I tried to swim against it, the more exhausted and overwhelmed I became. It felt illogical, this overwhelming fear that surged through me in seemingly ordinary situations. My rational mind knew that a presentation at work wasn't a life or death situation, yet my body responded as if it were facing a charging lion. This disconnect between my logical understanding and my body's intense reaction only fueled my frustration. I berated myself for being weak and irrational, further deepening the shame and isolation that often accompany anxiety. It was only when I began to understand the true nature of anxiety that I could begin to break free from its grasp. Anxiety, I discovered, is not inherently negative. It is a natural human response to stress, deeply rooted in our primal instincts for survival. Imagine our ancestors facing real threats in their environment. Wild animals, harsh weather, hostile tribes. Their anxiety was a vital tool, triggering the fight-or-flight response that kept them alive. In our modern world, the threats we face are often less tangible. Deadlines, social pressures, financial worries. However, our bodies still react in much the same way, flooding us with adrenaline and cortisol, preparing us to confront or flee from danger. The problem arises when this ancient survival mechanism becomes overactive, triggered by perceived threats that are not, in reality, life-threatening. Our bodies go on high alert for dangers that don't exist, leaving us feeling anxious and on edge. Section 4. Anxiety in society, the pressure to be fine. Our society, unfortunately, often exacerbates anxiety rather than alleviating it. We are constantly bombarded with messages that tell us to be happy, successful, and in control at all times. We are encouraged to suppress any negative emotions like anxiety and present a facade of effortless calm to the world. This pressure to appear fine can make us feel ashamed of our anxiety, leading us to hide it from others and suffer in silence. We may even resort to unhealthy coping mechanisms such as excessive drinking or working to mask our inner turmoil. The medical field, while well-intentioned, often approaches anxiety with a fix-it mentality, prescribing medication to alleviate symptoms without addressing the underlying causes. While medication can be helpful in some cases, it's not a magic bullet and should be used in conjunction with other coping strategies. Section 5. Steering your ship. Navigating the waves of anxiety. Imagine your mind as a ship sailing across the ocean. Anxiety is like the wind, a natural force that can propel you forward or toss you off course. Trying to suppress or eliminate anxiety is like trying to sail without wind altogether. You might manage to stay afloat for a while, but eventually you'll find yourself adrift, unable to make any progress. Instead of fighting the wind, you need to learn how to adjust your sails and steer your ship effectively. This means accepting that anxiety is a natural part of life and developing coping mechanisms to navigate its ups and downs. Section 6. Finding calm waters, practical steps to manage anxiety. One of the most helpful things I've learned is the importance of self-kindness. Instead of berating myself for feeling anxious, I've learned to acknowledge my feelings without judgment. This might sound like, it's okay to feel this way, this feeling will pass. Deep breathing exercises have been invaluable in calming my nervous system. When I feel anxiety rising, I pause and take several slow, deep breaths, focusing on the sensation of my chest expanding and contracting. Another powerful tool is mindfulness. By paying attention to the present moment, without judgment, I can interrupt the cycle of anxious thoughts that often plague me. This might involve focusing on my senses, the sights, sounds, and smells around me, or simply observing my thoughts and emotions without getting carried away by them. Finally, I've found immense value in connecting with others who understand what it's like to live with anxiety. Sharing my experiences and hearing from others who have been through similar struggles has helped me feel less alone and more hopeful. Remember, managing anxiety is a journey, not a destination. There will be calm seas and stormy waters, but with the right tools and a compassionate approach, you can learn to navigate them all.